What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the Point2Point NHL Recap Show. I'm Pascal Pryor, joined by Mark Howlerlack. Mark, how you doing, man?
Pretty good, buddy. Playoffs are getting going here. We're almost done the first round. Curious to know your thoughts about some of these series. Obviously, I think it's been a little bit disappointing, to be honest, that we've only had like one series that's like 2-2. Hasn't really been as close as I thought, but I mean, I love watching the playoffs, right? There's still been some pretty good games despite some of these series not being that close, but how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, dude. Honestly, I feel like I'm a fucking 55-year-old guy for some reason. Like, dude, like I'm going golfing on the weekend and something in my neck, I just tweak it when I woke up in the morning, and golfing just made it horrendous. And now my hip hurts, dude. Like, I feel like there's just like one joint at a time and my body is just getting absolutely mangled, dude. And like everybody around the office is making fun of me now because like I'm fucking 23. I shouldn't be having like neck issues and hip issues and stuff. But other than that, I'm doing pretty good. I do agree with you. Um, where round one has been a bit more boring than other years. Like I feel like we just got blessed with such a good regular season. Like our expectations going into the playoffs are so high now, and we only have one game seven that's guaranteed so far. And as you mentioned, only one series ever got to that 2-2 mark. So it's like a lot of these series in the first round have been pretty quick and not too. They have been, I don't want to say not too competitive, but they haven't had that drama that we've had in previous years. Let's get right into the first news of the day, though. It's the Dave Hakstol firing. Seattle Kraken, they've moved on from Dave Hakstol. We'll start off with you. What do you think about this?
Personally, like I don't mind it for the Kraken. I personally just never been a very big fan of Dave Hakstol. I mean, I think he kind of won another year after like Seattle making the playoffs last year, but it seemed like a bunch of key players said in their exit meetings that I don't know if they said they wouldn't want to play there or they would be essentially very disappointed if he returned as coach. Honestly, one guy that comes to mind, like I have no like confirmation of this, is Jared McCann. Like he's like a past 40 goal scorer. Like he seems like he can never get like a solidified spot in that lineup, dude. He's like
Yeah.
up from the first, second, third line. He's playing center, he's playing wing, and it's like he's probably been consistently their best forward since like the team was created. You know what I mean? So I wonder if it's a guy like that, maybe even like Beniers or like Bjorkstrand, Vince Dunn. I mean, those are kind of like the key guys on their team, right? So I'm assuming maybe one or maybe all of them said this. I think there's a lot of coaches out there though, right? So I mean, they are going to have a lot of options of what they possibly could do, but I honestly don't think this is a bad decision for the Kraken. Like last year, obviously they had a really deep team. They weren't as deep this year, but the roster didn't change as much. So I mean, I don't know if you can like completely blame Hackstall, but I mean, like I don't think he coached as well as he did last year.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. I don't think Seattle had the year they were looking for after their first season in the NHL and all sort of that success that they had. I have seen though in the last couple hours, the Kraken and a lot of players have been coming out and saying that like the players apparently didn't really like say that he lost the room or so sort of interesting to see like what if any more news comes out of that because we have heard both sides that like some players didn't want to see him fired or gone and they didn't really want to play for him anymore, and now some other players are saying no, that wasn't the case, and even the team saying that. So that is a bit interesting there. But yeah, for Seattle, I just when you look at the West this year, I just don't think like when we were doing our preseason predictions, both of us didn't really have him making the playoffs. We might have had him like maybe sneaking in that second wild card spot, but I think expectations on this team maybe were a bit too high to be honest. Like they're not a playoff team, but just based off all that success they had last season, I think a lot of people were hoping they would take another step up where they did the opposite and sort of took a step backwards. I think in the long run though, it's going to be good for this team, man. Like when you look at their sort of youth right now, it's Beniers, Shane Wright, so you just sort of want to add to that, be able to build this team for the future. So I don't mind the moving on from Dave Hakstol. At the end of the day, somebody has to be the sacrificial lamb, and in this case, it just came down to it being him. You want to move on to our NHL series though, NHL playoff series, because oh man, it's getting juicy.
It is, man.
Let's start off with the West. It's Dallas versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Right now, the series is currently 3-2 for Dallas. I believe what is that? Game six. Game six is tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So this could be a big game here. Dallas could clinch. Honestly, I think this is going to 7 games, dude. This series smells like 7 games. It's smelled like that the whole time. What do you think, though?
I really want Dallas to take this. I've obviously been pretty verbal about that on this podcast, but I do believe that this series is going 7 as well. I just can't believe that this series got to 2-2 after Vegas taking the first 2 games on the road. And then
Yeah,
I never expected them to lose both at home. I was really expecting them going back to Dallas game 5 with a 3-1 series lead. But man, Dallas, like, you got to give them kudos, man. These guys didn't give up. Like, imagine going down 0-2 at home to the defending Cup champs. You know what I mean? So you got to give kudos to Dallas. And I think with them, it's like Pavelski's usually been a playoff performer. He's been kind of quiet, but it's been like the young guys, man, and
yeah, it
Jamie
has.
Benn. That line with Wyatt Johnson, Stankoven, and Jamie Benn has been great for them. If they can get some of their other guys going, dude, I think that they can take this series and even move on farther in these playoffs. Saying that though, man, Vegas is so dangerous, dude. Like, they could easily pull off 2 in a row here. I wouldn't be surprised one bit. Really hoping that they don't end up doing that. What do you think they're gonna do in goal, dude? Because to be honest with you, like, I don't think Thompson's been bad at all. Like, even the games that they lost, like, he played pretty well. I do understand them going to Hill in game 5. Look, he's won the Stanley Cup. Thompson had lost 2 in a row. Like, Thompson's not he's not a full starting goalie, right? Like, he's not usually
Yeah.
playing 7, 8, 10 games in a row. So I kind of understood the switch. But like, do you think they're gonna go back to Thompson tonight, excuse me, or do you think they're gonna ride with Hill? Because Hill wasn't bad in game 5, but I mean, it was just more or less he didn't get the job done with the win.
Honestly, I think they'll go back to Aiden Hill. When you look at goalie tandems around the NHL, like look at Boston and what's happening so far in this series with the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Like they're not running that goalie tandem as they did all season long. In the playoffs, I don't think running a goalie tandem is really the right call, to be honest. Like, and Aiden Hill, he won them the cup last year, right? Like, I think they go back to Aiden Hill for tonight's game. I think honestly he sort of deserves to be in the net for tonight's game. But it definitely will be interesting. We'll probably see um a bit more coming out here on who they're leaning towards. Maybe as we're wrapping up the podcast, because by that point there should be some information coming out, I think. But yeah, with Dallas,
Right.
as you mentioned, dude, I really like this team. I have them win the Stanley Cup. The thing that's worrying me though is that, man, like this series, it's so tough for both teams. Like whoever comes out of this series is going to be pretty beat up. It's been a long series for both these teams, so it's like when you have Colorado who took down Winnipeg in 5 games, it's like they're going to be well rested, right? Like that's scary. A well
Yeah.
rested Colorado having to face them in the second series. So I wonder how much of like that rest and being in a 6 7 game series will take into effect in the second round. But yeah, if Dallas gets through the series though and they get some of their players going, like for real, watch out for them. Like I'm looking at the stats right now. Like Rope Hintz only has 1 goal. Last year in the playoffs, he was unbelievable for him, right? It's like
He was
if you
leading
can get,
scoring for a little stretch there in the playoffs last year.
yeah, like if you can get him going, and same with Pavelski, pardon me, Pavelski, no points yet in this series. Like if you can get those 2 guys going, dude, sorry, not Vegas, Dallas. They're a team to watch out for, and I'm hoping they win the cup, man, because actually it means some money in my pocket, some golfing money over the summer. But it's it's gonna be a big game, this game 6. Hopefully Dallas can close it out, but I don't know, man. I don't think Vegas is gonna go out easy, dude. I can see him forcing a game 7 here, and honestly, I sort of want them to force a game 7 because we can't have only one game 7 in the playoffs of round 1 at least. Like we need more than that, man. I need the drama in my life, dude. It was all here with the
Yeah.
regular season. It just hasn't been here for the
I
playoffs.
am happy that we're getting at least one game 7, which is good. But to be able to get a couple more, like even getting one on Saturday and Sunday, would be pretty cool. I do hope that either this series or Nashville, Vancouver does end up going to 7 games. For Vegas, though, man, like one guy that I feel like still doesn't get enough attention for how good he is Eichel, dude. Like this
Yeah.
freaking guy, dude, comes to play when it matters, man. He's over a point per game in his playoff career. He's leading that Vegas team right now. I think one guy that's really got to get going for them, though, is Hurdle. I don't know if it's just like he hasn't been in the playoffs for a while and he's kind of getting like readjusted to it from when he went on those runs with the Sharks, but I don't think he's been too great in this series. So, I mean, if he can get going in these next couple games as well, I think Vegas is in a pretty good spot. But I mean, both of these teams are just so deep. Like, this is just like a matchup that, like, these guys met in the conference finals last year, man. Like, it wouldn't be surprising if, like, this was a conference finals matchup this year, right? And it's
Yeah.
like, it's kind of nuts that one of these guys are going to play Colorado in the next round. Like, you are right. It's just like, with the abs though, man, it's just like I don't know. Like sometimes that rest isn't always like a great thing. Like you kind of get out of your mojo. You know what I mean? But I think the one thing is that like I do think that both of these teams probably outmatch Colorado in net. To be fair though, Georgiev, like we're gonna get into that series. Like after game one, he's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited to watch game six tonight. I'm kind of hoping for a game seven, but also not just because I want Dallas to win. It's just going to give me a lot of anxiety going into game seven, who's going to win that. But this has definitely been a back and forth series and definitely one of the better ones in this first round.
Yeah, before we move on, I want to touch on that Jack Eichel comment that you made. Dude, I agree with you that he's not talked about enough for how
Dude,
good
like
he is, man.
not
Like,
enough at all, man.
I'm looking at his playoff numbers in front of me right now, and this is his whole career in the playoffs. 27 games played, he has 33 points. He's above a point per game player when playing in the playoffs, man. Like the I think part of the reason though why he doesn't get enough love is just because he has some health issues. Like he's only played over 70 games twice in his career. It was his rookie season, and then in 2018-29 with or 2018-2019, pardon me, with Buffalo again. So like he's played 63, 67, 61, 67, 68 sort of games played typically. So I think that's part of the reason. It's just he doesn't have those regular season numbers. Like
Yeah.
is why he doesn't get enough love. Like looking at his regular season numbers right now, I don't think he hasn't cracked over 82 points in a regular season, which is like
No, but
really
it's almost like
really
it's
surprising.
it is kind of surprising, but it's almost like he's a really responsible player, right? Like
Yeah.
he can like honestly, man, I feel like he could have been nominated for a Selkie over these past couple years. But it's like, dude, I'd almost prefer sacrificing that for the better defense and like just coming out
Oh yeah.
strong in the playoffs, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like first time he gets in these playoffs with the Golden Knights, like they win the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? He's a huge part of that. Do you think like that it's pretty comparable to like Stone though, right? In the sense that he
Yeah.
hasn't played a lot of games. Do you think Stone just gets more of the attention because of the whole holding him out and LTIR thing?
Yeah, I think Stone
Because
gets more
like
of the attention.
realistically, they both performed in the playoffs last year. It's not like Eichel didn't do anything. He was really good, right? And Marchessault was probably even better. So it's like I think that's the reason why Stone probably would get a little bit more attention than Eichel, just because of him kind of being held out or you know what I mean? This whole speculation of them like cheating the salary cap, but I mean, I think Eichel deserves a lot more attention than he's getting, man. And I honestly hope that in the regular season, like he's able to crack like 90 points or something
Same.
and kind of get him on the map. You know what I mean? As
Dude,
like
like
an elite, he already is an elite center. It's not that, but like up there with those other guys, you know?
yeah, it's just the fact that he doesn't play enough games in the regular season. Like if he played a full regular season like last year and this year, he probably would have cracked 90, 95 points, right? But
Yeah.
he was sitting at the 68 marker this year through 63 games played. So it's like he plays another 20 games, dude. That's another 25, 30 points he had. So that's 90, 95 points. Let's move on to the next series though. It's Vancouver, Nashville. It's still being played right now. I believe what is that? Game 6 is tomorrow.
No, it's actually tonight. It's Dallas and the Dallas series and that series. I think they're both
It
tonight.
is tonight. I saw it was a 7 o'clock start, so I'm like, hey, that's got to be an Eastern game, but I'm
No, they're in
dumb. The
Nashville,
only
so I think it's only an hour difference to Eastern time. So I think they got like a 6 o'clock local start, and then they got the late game later with Vegas Dallas. Am I wrong? That's what isn't it?
Yeah, Vegas Dallas is the 10 o'clock
Is
game.
later? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, just that 7 o'clock start, dude, was just throwing me off, dude, for a Western Conference game. But yeah, Vancouver they can clinch the series though. It's currently at 3-2. It's in Nashville's barn, though, man. We all know how electric that place is.
Man, what are your thoughts on this series? Because I can't lie, like I think it's actually been pretty good. Like I think it's been a little bit better than I even thought. It's been a little bit like low eventful in the sense of like shots on goal and stuff. Like Nashville's done a great job at like blocking a lot of shots, containing the Canucks to like 18 shots one game, 21 the other. They tied the record for lowest shots in a win. I don't know what game it was, 3 or 4. They had 12, I think it was.
I
Um,
believe it was game 4.
okay. But dude, like I think the story of this series has been like Vancouver's goaltending, dude. Like they've
Uh,
used 3 different guys now. Thatcher Demko wins game 1. He doesn't come out for game 2. Casey DeSmith comes in, wins game, or sorry, he loses game 2, wins game 3. He's injured now, and then you got this guy from Abbotsford in the AHL, Arthur Seelovs, who they project to be like one of their goalies in the future. And I can't lie, dude, he's been looking pretty good, even in that loss, man. Like he made a bunch of nice saves when they won that game too, and they came back when Besser tied it late there. DeSmith is apparently healthy. I'm really curious to see what they're going to end up doing for this next game. I personally think just because of the NHL experience, they're probably going to run with DeSmith. If he loses, maybe they go back to Seelovs. But it seems like that Demko is probably out till like later in the second round
yeah.
if they go that far. So
The
I
last,
mean, sorry, go ahead.
the last I saw Demko was at, because we all thought originally like, oh, did he re-aggravate the injury that he had previously? And then apparently Vancouver was saying like, no, it's not that. It's something completely different, and something that like is pretty unique and not all that common. So who really knows what the actual injury is? But the timeline definitely isn't like he's coming back game 1 of round 2.
Yeah.
But back to the goaltending point, though. Honestly, dude, I think I run with that Seelovs guy tonight. Give him a
He's
shot,
dude,
man. Give him a
he's
shot.
pretty talented, dude. He's a little bit smaller, but your counterpart the other end, UC Saros, is one of the smallest goalies in the
Yep.
NHL as well. I personally think that Vancouver's going to close this out tonight. And this series is not going to go to 7. With these two teams, too, man, there's a lot of travel from Nashville to Vancouver, right? Like we've had a 3-day break here between game 5 and 6. Like they're traveling pretty much more than any other two teams in the first round here.
Yeah, it's a
One guy,
four
go
and
ahead.
a half, 5 hour flight between the two cities, which is like not that close for like an interconference series. That's a pretty far travel, man. Like,
Yeah. Well, Nashville's pretty much located more on like the eastern side of the states too, right? Even though
yeah,
they are like a Western Conference team. Man, one guy that I do think in this series that's been kind of disappointing though is Pedersen, dude. Like
yeah,
he
I
kind of
agree.
struggled to end the season and he hasn't really picked it up. Besser's been playing well. Miller's been playing well. Honestly, I think Yossi's kind of outdueled Quinn Hughes a little bit here, even though Quinn Hughes technically is still winning the series. But honestly, I think Hughes and Pedersen you could probably expect a little bit more from. But I mean, Vancouver's battling, dude. It's not easy to lose your goalie like that, dude, and keep going. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's pretty much like if they ended up losing the series in 5 or 6, you'd say, oh, well, it was because they lost their starting goaltender, like Vezina candidate. But dude, like they're not even taking that as an excuse right now. Like they're fucking battling. They want to make the second round and play the Oilers, dude, who they've been really good against all season. So I mean, you got to give kudos to the Canucks. Honestly, I think you got to give kudos to the Preds too, dude. I don't think
Yeah,
a lot of people took this team that serious, but you got to think of how they ended this season off and how good they were. And dude, they've outshot the Preds like basically every game. Like they're playing pretty well. They're blocking a ton of shots. So I could see this series going 7. I picked Nashville to win. I more or less thought that it was probably going to be like back and forth, like 1-1, 2-2. You know what I mean? But I think that game 4, dude, where they had that 3-1 lead, like that changed like basically everything, dude. Like Sissons hits that post on the wide open net, Besser ties it, they win it in OT. You know what I mean? Like that is a huge turnaround.
yeah. Two guys I also want to talk about for the Canucks is first Niels Höglander. Honestly, he hasn't looked too great in this series.
No, he hasn't.
Hasn't really done anything. He's been getting less than 10 minutes a game.
He did have a good season though this year, like in the regular
Yeah,
season. Like he had over 20 goals. I think I heard that like Talkett told him like if you want to stay in this lineup, like you got to be
You got to
effective in
do
different
something.
ways. And the thing is he last game he actually was like laying a bunch of big hits and stuff. So I mean, I guess he's kind of taken that role into his game since he's not producing. But I mean, yeah, like if he keeps going like this and he doesn't get on the score sheet, he might be out of the lineup soon.
But then, yeah, another guy I do want to talk about is, man, we got to give Dakota Joshua a shout out, dude.
Dude, he's a
He's
dog, man. He might
he's
get a decent
he's
contract this summer.
dude, he's stepped up here in the playoffs. Like every year, there's always like a guy on a team that is more of like a bottom six, middle six forward that really steps up their gameplay. Like when St. Louis won the cup in 2019, like Patty Maroon was all the talk. Dakota Joshua, man, 2 goals, dude. They were pretty big goals too that he's had. Like I just want to give him some
In
love.
game one, yeah. No,
We're
no, dude,
ripping
you're
on
right.
Petey a bit.
Nashville was winning, dude, and he scored to I think was it to take the lead. I don't even remember or tie the game, but and then he got the empty netter. But no, I 100%, dude. He's a solid player. He had a really good season for the Canucks too. I think he's gonna get not like a huge payday, but I mean like he might get a couple year deal, like 2-3 million bucks. You know what I mean? He's been kind of battling to get to the NHL his whole career. So I mean, kind of kudos to him, dude. He's looking pretty good.
Let's move on to the first series that's been wrapped up here in the Western Conference. It's the Edmonton Oilers versus the Los Angeles Kings. It was a gentleman's sweep for the Edmonton Oilers. They took it in Game 5. What do you make of this series, though? Or what did you make of this series?
Dude, I think it just kind of went as we expected it, no? Like, didn't
Yeah.
you take these guys in five too? Or was it
I
a
think I took them
sweep?
in 5 or 6. I think the only sweeps I
Yeah,
had was
I mean,
really Washington and the Islanders getting swept.
I think with the Kings, right, it's like they're a pretty good defensive team. They're deep. Um, I think they have one of the best penalty kills in the NHL in the regular season, but man, when you're playing the Oilers, like that's just so hard to contain, right? Like when you're relying on that so much. You don't even have a starting goalie either. Um, I don't know. Like you're flipping from Cam Talbot to David Riddick. Even the game that the Kings won, dude, it was just so back and forth, went to OT. Like it was really anyone's game. Like even if it ended up being a sweep, I wouldn't be too surprised. But man, like the big guys for the Oilers stepped up, dude. McDavid's got 11 assists. Draisaitl, Zach Hyman's got what 7 goals in 5 games. Like Stuart Skinner, I mean, he kind of started off the couple games rough, but then he had a really solid outing in game 3, and then they had that 1-0 shutout in game 4, right? So I mean, if he starts to get going too, I mean, it's going to be pretty dangerous for either the Canucks or the Preds next round. With LA though, it's definitely pretty disappointing, man. Like this is 3 years in a row now that they've lost to the Oilers. Um, Kopitar and Doughty's careers, like every year this happens, dude. It's just like one less opportunity to go for another Stanley Cup. I personally think even though LA is a good team, that like some I don't want to say major changes are coming, but some pretty decent changes are coming.
Yep.
Is it crazy to think that they could buy out Dubois? Because, dude, and listen, I know it's insane
I
because
wanted to
there's
talk
seven
about him.
years left, but I saw the calculations of it, dude. If they did it this summer, they would save a lot of money on the cap. I think the highest cap hit they would have over the next, I think, because it gets like prorated, right, when they get bought
Yeah.
out. Like it's a longer contract with less money being paid. So I think since he's got 7 years left, it would be he making a third for 11 years. But that cap hit, dude, I don't think ever gets over $4 million for the duration of it, which is under half of what he makes. In a couple of these years, the cap hit's going to be like 1.5, 2.5, and then it like goes back. So honestly, it sounds insane, but if they were going to do it, dude, I wouldn't be surprised if they did it this summer.
Yeah, and now's the time. Like the salary cap overall is going to go up too, so it's not going to hurt you as much there. I don't. It's interesting with him, man, because it's like he was awful this year. There's no other way to say it. Like he was not good whatsoever. But it's like
He
you
didn't
gave up a
he didn't
lot for that
perform
guy.
in the series either, dude. Like he had
Yeah,
a chance to like dude, some guys it's like you have a shit season, you come out in the playoffs, it almost like you almost like forget about how bad the season was. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
Dubois had an opportunity to do that, dude, but he didn't, man.
But like LA, dude, they gave up a lot for him, man. Like I don't know if they want to move on from him like this quick, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just because it's like with how
It
much
is.
you with how much you gave up to bring him into your team, and then how much you paid the guy. Like, do you give him another season here to sort of see if he can figure it out, or at least be like better than he was? Because even if he was 50% better than what he was this year, like that's a massive, it's a massive change. I, the other thing too is
Yeah,
when
they
you
gave up a
talk about
lot, man.
the other thing too though is when you talk about the changes that we could see with this team is, I think, dude, Brant Clark, they're going to have to do something with him. Either he's going to be in the team next year, or you use him as a trade piece. And if you use him as a trade piece, it's a pretty decent trade piece, and you could get a decent bit in return with that. So it's like, what do they do with him? Honestly, dude, I think Byfield's really breaking out. I think next year Byfield's it's
Dude,
gonna sort of be
I think he's probably their best player next year, dude.
yeah, it's gonna be his team next year. It's gonna be interesting to see what they do. But going on to the other side, talking about Edmonton, honestly, dude, I like this team, man. Like, you got McDavid and Draisaitl, who are absolute dogs, man. You got Zach Hyman, dude. This guy does not know how to put the puck in the back of the net, dude.
Oh, I
Like,
know.
we talk about guys being point per game players, dude. Zach Hyman's a goal per game player, pretty much, playing alongside Connor McDavid. And then you got
Yeah,
Bouchard too, dude, is your number one defenseman, who's an absolute power play god, dude. Like, their big dogs are performing. And the other thing is, unlike other years, dude, like this team actually has some pretty decent depth to them. Like, you still got
for
Nuge,
sure.
you got Evander Kane, dude. You got Henrique. I love that Henrique acquisition. Like, Ekholm, we're seeing what he can do in the playoffs as sort of that like
Dude,
shutdown
Corey
defenseman
Perry
for them.
too, dude.
Corey Perry, like Darnell Nurse, like we like as much as we've ripped Darnell Nurse on this podcast, man. I think the
He's a
biggest
top
issue with
four defenseman. He's a
I think
top
the
four defenseman.
but I think the biggest issue with Darnell Nurse in previous years is that like he's their number one defenseman. Where like now that you have Bouchard and you have Ekholm, dude, like Darnell Nurse is playing in as like their third defenseman, which is like sort of what he is. Like he's playing in
Yeah,
a
no,
role that suits him the best. Where I think like in any other season he hasn't been given that role that suits him the best. So honestly, dude, like I like this Edmonton team, man. I could see him making a run, because the other thing too is they're gonna play the winner of Nashville, Vancouver. So I don't want to say they have an easy round two, because anytime you're in the playoffs, it's always a hard grind them out series. But you just gotta be thankful that you're not playing Colorado, Vegas, or Nash or pardon me, Colorado, Vegas, or Dallas in the next round, because Nashville or Vancouver, whoever wins that series, it's definitely going to be an easier matchup than the other three teams we just mentioned.
no, absolutely, dude. I mean, yeah, I think before this playoffs even started, I was like, Edmonton's got a pretty clear path here to the conference finals if they can get the job done, right? So,
Oh yeah,
I mean, they're looking pretty dangerous right now. As long as they can get good goaltending and if they can keep scoring and shut they didn't do a great job, I feel like, about shutting LA down like offensively. I think that's probably like the one thing that they could definitely improve on going forward. But I mean, the fact that they were still able to take them in 5 games, man, I think Edmonton's still in a pretty good spot.
let's move on to the last series here in the Western Conference. This one also wrapped up. It was wrapped up in 5 games. Colorado, again, gentleman sweep here over the Winnipeg Jets. Man, this series was not great for Winnipeg. I
Not what I
wonder,
expected at all, dude.
like, we I think we both had Winnipeg winning the series in our
I had Winnipeg winning in 6, dude.
yeah, in our
But I
predictions.
also thought that like Winnipeg was going to continue their strong defensive play and great goaltending from the regular season, right? They let in the least goals in the NHL in the regular season. They let in 5 goals or more in every single game in
Yeah,
the first round. Even
that's
that
not
win,
great.
that 7-6 win in game one. After that, I honestly, dude, I was like, I'm concerned if I'm Colorado because I don't think Hellebuck's letting in this many goals consistently, and they just lost the game when they scored 6 on him.
Yeah,
So
that's I was saying the same thing. I was like, man, if you're Colorado, you got to be worried, because if you're scoring 5+ goals on Connor Hellebuck and you're not winning the game, like that's a massive missed opportunity, because I don't think he's letting in 5+ again for the rest of the series. And Colorado spit in my face because they scored 5+ for the every other game in that series. So
Not
It's
that
all
he's a
good.
huge difference maker, but it's kind of nuts that they did this without Drouin. Just because like he
Yeah.
actually produced pretty well in the season playing with McKinnon. Um, but and that's like a top six forward that they're taking out, right? So the fact that they did it without him, they had some guys step up though, man. Miles Wood, Ross Colton, Zach Parise, like they were getting contributions all around. Obviously, the big guns, McKinnon, dude, Lehkonen too, dude. Holy shit, man! Like when
Nichushkin.
when he when he got traded from Montreal, I was like, dude, this fucking guy is gonna fit in Colorado so well. Because just that he's a dog, he's so good defensively, just kind of the type of player that you know McKinnon would want to play with. It was kind of nuts though, because for a couple of games, I didn't think Rantanen looked that good. And then like the last two games, he kind of just like tore it up. You know what I mean? So I mean,
Yeah.
there's no concerns about him really moving forward. And I guess the one question mark, I mean, going into the series was Georgiev, and he was awful in game one. But dude, the last four games, man, he 4-0 with a 940 save percentage. Like he really put that game one behind him and turned it around. I didn't think he could do it, dude. But man, you got to give him credit.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing in this series, dude, was like Winnipeg just didn't play the style of hockey that they like we talk about teams playing like your style of hockey and don't give in and play like don't play with the team you're matched up against. Like Winnipeg did not do a good job of that, man. Like they
No, not at
played
all.
they played exactly how Colorado wanted them to play, man. High scoring, fast games. Like Colorado, man, on their zone entries, dude. Like Winnipeg couldn't do anything, man. They just let them walk past the blue line every time, dude. And it resulted in 5+ goals at every
Do you
game,
do
man.
you
Like
do you know what I honestly think was probably a major factor in this series is how small and I don't want to say not strong, but kind of how Winnipeg's defense is. And I say that because in 5 games, Colorado scored 10 screen goals.
yeah,
10. Winnipeg did not do a good job at boxing out Colorado at all. Honestly, Connor Hellebuyck wasn't good. Do I think this is completely his fault? No, I really
no,
don't. I don't at all. I don't think he was good though. Did you see what he said after they got eliminated though? Did you see
no.
that?
I miss that.
I thought it was legit like AI generated. He said, "You guys are probably not going to believe me, but I think I was playing the best hockey of my career."
Oh no, I did see that. I did.
Look, dude, I get his as a former goalie, I get what he's coming at. He came off a fantastic regular season. He's in this zone where he's not even thinking and he's like reacting and playing. And that
Yeah,
probably continued into the playoffs. But man, I couldn't be farther from the truth. Connor Hellebuck, man, when he's at his best, he's making these routine or these 10 bell saves look easy, kind of like what Carey Price was like, you know what I mean? There wasn't even like saves in that series where I was like, wow, that was a huge save by Connor Hellebuck to keep them in the game. You know what I mean? And look, it was just like they scored on their opportunities and he just didn't make the big saves. And his stats were awful. Like he has like an 870 save
yeah.
percentage. Like
He was not getting that series whatsoever. Back to your point though about the size difference sort of between the two teams. Honestly, dude, like I never thought about that too much, but now that you mention it, like I completely agree with that. And like
like
when you look
Logan
at
Stanley is obviously huge and he's a dog and you know what I mean, but it's like he's not even like a regular in the lineup. Like you
yeah,
know what I mean? So but like, dude, think about it. Like Morrissey, he's like 6'1". Pionk, he's 6 foot. Honestly, I really like Brendan Dillon. I think he's probably the one guy out of all of them that probably can do that. But even like DeMello, he's a small guy. Like they don't have a big decor, dude. It's almost like I was a little bit oblivious to thinking like they would get through with this type of decor in the playoffs. You know what I
yeah, and it
mean?
doesn't help out when you're going against Colorado because not only does Colorado have big guys in their lineup, but their core guys are all fucking tanks as well, man. Like Nate Dogg, guys a tank. Mikko Rannon, he's called the Moose for a reason, you know. Like
Nichushkin, dude, like Lekkonen's a
Nichushkin,
dog. Like
yeah,
dude, but 10 screen goals like in 5 games is nuts to me, dude. Like it's like they weren't. And the thing is too, it's like Vancouver's trying this against Nashville, right? But what's Nashville doing? Dude, they're blocking shots, bro. Like Saros is small, right? Like he's an easy goalie to screen, but Winnipeg just didn't go that route of like trying to block shots. It was almost like they just thought Hellebuck was gonna at least like make the first save all the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Winnipeg does in this offseason because Rick Bowness, like we all know, like he had those like family stuff this year. So it's like, does he
Yeah.
come back?
He's
Also,
got
like,
to, I believe he's got a team option. Like he can basically say, I don't want to come back next year or I do. So
yeah,
yeah, curious to see what happens with that.
but it's like, do we see a coaching change there? I think after this series, we'd see maybe them try to bulk up their defense a little bit. Like Stanley, I think he's gone. I know he doesn't
Oh yeah.
want to be there. He requested a trade last offseason and nothing came, but he's either an RFA or UFA this year, so he's going to be gone. Let's move on though to the Eastern Conference. There's only one series still being played over here, which is kind of crazy, but it is what it is. It's Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Boston Bruins. Holy fuck, man! I think this one has probably been my favorite series so far, just with all the drama here. Like you got Nylander not playing, then Matthews is out. You know, like Marner's a fucking crybaby. Is not my words. That's William Nylander's words. I can say it. I can say that. But like, we're getting a game 7, man. We're getting a game 7 back in Boston. I think this game 7, dude, it's gonna be a good one. It's Saturday night, so you know I'm gonna be watching that while I'm at work. What have you made over this series though? Outside of the fact that Boston doesn't know how to fucking close out a series.
Holy fuck, dude. I don't know what to think about this series, man. It's
Yeah.
been kind of nuts. Like Boston had complete control of that series for a while, but I mean, I don't know what it is with these guys, man, and just trying to close out a series. It's like, I don't know if it's nerves or what it is, but I think like, dude, like how fucking good has Jeremy Swayman been, dude? Like he hasn't let in over 2 goals in a single game. He's lost the last two now. Obviously, Woll coming in for Samsonov. I personally thought Woll should have started the series from the very get-go. I honestly think the Leafs would be in round 2 right now if he started the series. Samsonov's just not the guy, in my opinion. But you got to give kudos to the Leafs, dude. Obviously, I'm not a fan of the team whatsoever, but battling back from 3-1, they looked very out of it. Game 3, game 4, it kind of just seemed like they were just going to cruise to this first round exit once again, but they're not giving up, man. They're blocking shots now. Like, dude,
Yeah.
Boston had one fucking shot like halfway through the game like yesterday. They're not looking as good. You know what I mean? Like Toronto's got a lot of the momentum right now. Obviously, going back to Boston's going to be tough to try and take a game 7 there, but the Leafs have taken 2 out of 3 in Boston already, right? So, like, it's definitely not impossible. It could happen. I think if the Leafs want to win, though, like Woll's just gonna have to continue to play like he's playing right now. It's been just a goalie duel the last couple of games. You know what I mean between
Yeah.
these two guys. I don't know about you, dude, but I think the Leafs are taking this in 7, dude.
See,
I think Boston's. I just think they're fucking toast, man.
see. Honestly, dude, it's a toss up for me. It's really close, but I just think it's gonna be Boston based off the experience. We don't know if Poppy's playing game 7, man. Like
Like the
honestly,
game 7 jitters, you mean? Like for the Leafs?
yeah, like the game 7 jitters. Like I think Boston's gonna be a bit more calm, cool, and collected there in a game 7. You got Swayman, like
But
as much
but you
as I
don't
want
think
to
last year from Florida they're not kind of like shitting their pants a bit, dude?
the Leafs or
No, like
Boston.
no, Boston.
I
Like
think
this
they
is
maybe
legit deja vu, dude.
I think they are a little bit, dude. But honestly, I think unlike last year, dude, this year they're gonna like it's gonna wake them up a little bit. I think it's gonna wake
Okay.
them up, man. They've looked a little sleepy here the last 2 games in game 5 and 6, man. Like haven't really got anything going offensively. I think I think they're gonna be able to get some more shots past Joseph Woll here, because like Joseph Woll, like as phenomenal as he's been, dude. I don't know if it's sustainable in a game 7, dude. The guy's a 964 save percentage and a 086 goals against. Like,
Yeah.
does he let in like is he gonna let in like more than 2 goals in game 7? Personally, I think he will. Watch, this might come
That
back
might
and
and that might win you the game, dude, the way Swayman's playing.
yeah, like Boston in the last 2 games, all they've had to do is score two, three goals to win the game, dude. And they just haven't been able to, man. Like, I don't think Boston's gonna be able to. Like, I don't know if Toronto's gonna be able to shut them down like that for another game. And like, we got to talk about the Poppy thing too, dude. Because like, if he's not playing, man, like Marner, he's looked a little bit better in the last couple games. Like, first couple games was, oh my god, dude, he you should have healthy scratched him, to be honest. But like Nylander, he's looked phenomenal since coming back. Last night, scores both the goals, man. That guy was clutch. But if you're without Poppy in a game seven, man, like I don't know how I feel about that, dude. You're without your best player. You're without 69 goal scorer Austin Matthews, you know? Like, I don't know how to feel
It's a
about
very
that.
fair point, man. The one thing that I guess that would be a bit concerning for me if I'm Toronto too is like I don't think Pasta's really got going, right?
Yeah,
Like I think
he's
he's kind of struggled a bit. I think the effort's been there. I just think it's like he hasn't really showed up in the big moments yet, you know? I think he had that one in I don't know how many goals he's got in this series, but he had that
he's
goal
got
in
two.
game one. He had that nice goal in game one. Um, that would be a little bit concerned if he does get going, but I just think on paper Toronto's the better team. If they can get over these game seven jitters, dude, I think they can probably take this series, man. Like, I don't know, man. It's just so with Boston, right? It was last year that this happened, so it's pretty fresh in their minds. But with the Leafs, dude, it's like some of these guys weren't even there like 6 years ago when this happened, and obviously 2013. Like, was anyone there? Morgan Riley, maybe. Like, so I just don't know how much that's like affecting them, dude.
See, I
But
think it's more.
it is real though, right? Because like they beat Tampa last year, but that was in six, right? Like that wasn't game
Yeah.
seven. Like it is, it's a fair point that you're bringing up. It's just that I just don't know if Boston's more fragile than Toronto right now. That's where I guess I'm getting at, you know?
No, that's a fair point. See, like the way I sort of look at it is like I think it's more the core guys I'm worried about. Like Toronto's core, man. Like you've had this narrative their whole careers that they've been there where they're not playoff performers. They can't get it done in the playoffs. Where for Boston, like yeah, they blew that 3-1 lead to Florida last year, but like Brad Marchand, he's a Stanley Cup winner. He's gotten it done in the playoffs. Like he's a leader of that team. Like I think he like if there is like worries in that locker room, like Brad Marchand is going to be able to like Brad Marchand and those vets in Boston are going to be able to handle it a bit better. Like they got Pat Maroon now. Like Pat Maroon, like that guy's like Mr. Playoffs almost of our generation. You know,
Yeah.
like guy knows how to get it done in the playoffs. Like he's there. That's going to be some good leadership. We're Toronto, man. Like Toronto's leadership, they just like even John Tavares, dude. He's like he was the captain of the team and one of the older players on the team. Like with the Islanders, he wasn't ever really in the playoffs, and then with the Leafs, like they've never been able to get it done.
Minus him, that nice play on the OT winner there. I don't really think he's been a huge factor in this series at all.
He's
To be
slowing up.
completely honest with you, I don't think he's really even close to the same player that he has been. But Leafs are getting some decent contributions, dude. Like I love Nyes, man. I think he's a dog. I think he's a solid player. I think he's going to be like a really good top six forward in the future for the Leafs. So you think Boston's winning this, eh?
I got Boston just because I think
Okay.
Swayman's going to stand on his head again, dude. Like I could see Boston winning it as like a 3-1 game, 2-1 game, 3-2 game. They just gotta they just gotta score three goals and then let Swayman do his thing, man.
Yeah.
They
Just
should
kind of
have. They
block shots, keep him to the outside. He could save it. He'll save anything that he sees, right? Like
yeah.
like yesterday that Nylander goal that was like a deflection off McAvoy's pants. Like it's like, and then the other one was a nice breakaway. You know what I mean? Like he's not letting in. He's in such a zone right now that he's not letting in like clear shots. You know what I mean?
Like realistically, dude, Boston probably should have won the last two games. Like not based off play, but based off the fact that all they had to do was score two goals in game five and then
Three goals
two, three
yesterday.
goals
Yeah.
in game six, and you're on to the second round. I think before we move on though from the series, like uh what's up with Poppy, man? He's not like there's no way he's sick, dude.
Definitely
I
could have
know
been sick, but I mean, like it maybe like kind of like he could have been sick and then also got injured. Like so like he was skating yesterday and he looked like pretty good, but people are wondering if it's a concussion.
yeah.
because the way he was moving was like he didn't really look like anything was bothering him. You know what I mean? So I wonder if it's like something like his head. Like, you know what I
Okay.
mean?
If it's a cocky dude, I don't know if he's playing Game 7 though. Then man, because like
And the thing is, it's like he was ruled out. Like Nylander, it was like he might play tonight. You know,
yeah.
with Matthews, both times it was like 6 hours before, like he's not playing tonight. You
And the
know,
thing with him
so
too is why I don't think he's sick, man. Is I like he's still skating around the team, dude. It's like if you have a guy that's like that sick where he's missing 2 games, dude. Like, do you really want him being around the team, man? Like, getting other guys
yeah.
sick and stuff, like in the locker room. Like, I don't know. Honestly, like, it's gonna be a big one if he plays Game 7 or not, because like that could realistically, man, that could be the difference maker in this series is if he plays Game 7. Like,
For
comes
sure.
out, scores 2 goals, dude. Like, it'd be interesting to see in what's gonna sort of come out between now and Saturday night. Let's move on though to Florida Tampa Bay series. This one, a little gentleman sweep. I'm gonna be saying that a lot, honestly, this podcast, man, with all the
Oh,
fucking
dude, there's
gentleman
been a
sweeps
lot
we
of them,
had.
man. It's been a lot of them, dude.
Honestly, dude, this came down to Florida's Florida. Oh, they
They
look
look
good,
good.
dude.
They look good, man. And I don't think I like it. It's definitely disappointing for Tampa to lose in 5, but I think it was just more they were outmatched. I don't think that they played like awful by any means or anything. They basically, besides what the last game there, like they were in every game. One of them went to overtime. Um, Man, you had a couple games there where holy shit, like Vasilevsky, Bobrovsky, man, like they're keeping their teams in the game. Like that insane save by Bob on
Bob,
Dumba, dude,
yeah.
when he was like looking in the fucking crowd and he like made it backwards. Like Bob's looking pretty good. Obviously, that's a bit dangerous for the rest of the league moving forward. You know what I mean? Of like what type of zone he was in last year. Definitely going to be an interesting offseason for the Lightning, though, man. 2 straight first round exits after going to 3 straight cup finals. You've got your captain who's a pending UFA. I don't know what the fuck's going to be happening with that, to be honest. It just seems like such a weird situation. I just think that if he was going to take a discount, this contract would have been signed already. Um, but I don't know, man. I kind of think that Breezewa believes that like their problems on defense. So it's just like, are they going to re-sign Stamkos or are they going to allocate money to go out and get like another top 4
Yeah.
defense? You know what I mean? So I don't think their defense is terrible by any means, but if you're looking at it compared to when they won these cups and even went to the finals, like it's not the same decor, dude. Like you still
Yeah,
got
no, you
Hedman,
had
Sergachev, but you don't got McDonough. Cernak, to be honest, is not playing as well as he was before. Like Jan Ruda was a pretty decent player for them when they won the cup. So definitely an interesting offseason for the Lightning. They don't have a lot of money to work with as like their core is still signed minus Stamkos. They got
yeah.
Hagel's contract kicking in next year. That was a really good signing though, man. 6.5 mil. He's a fucking dog. At first I was like, they're signing this guy over Stamkos, but it's like for the future, like it almost seems like it was worth it, dude. Like he's a really good player, man, and he fits in that team very
He's a
well.
great
So
2C.
yeah,
Great
so I
2C
mean
winger type of player.
yeah, curious to see what ends up happening with Stammer and the Lightning, but I mean, I think Breezewa is going to be pretty active, man. I don't think he's happy with 2 straight first round exits.
Yeah, I could see him doing a lot this offseason. Because the other thing too is like their window's like closing, but like you still got Kucherov, man, and you still got Point, you still got Hedman, like you got Vasi and that. Like,
You're gonna have a Sergachev healthy. He missed over half the season, right? So
yeah, like
Vasi
their
also missed the first 25 games or whatever. So
their window is closing, but this is still a team that can compete for Stanley Cups with the right moves. On the other side, though, Florida, dude, I want to talk about Carter Verhaeghe, man. This guy is
clutch.
he's a legit dude. He performs when it matters the most. Five goals in this series, dude. Like you think Toronto's looking at this right now and like how did we let this guy go?
For sure, but do you also think Tampa's looking at it and saying the
Oh,
same thing, dude? Like
I think they're
dude, he was
having
getting fucking
coffee dates
healthy
over us,
scratched
dude.
on the Lightning, dude. He was getting scratched, man. And like, dude, he's a clutch performer, man. He's
Yeah.
that contract, he's making 4 million bucks. Like, those are the contracts that like that sets you up to win. You know what I mean? When like, dude, like, I'm gonna be honest with you, dude. I'd give that guy $7 million.
Yeah.
100%,
Oh
bro.
yeah.
He's a fucking 40 goal scorer, solid two-way winger. He's gonna get a pretty nice payday. Obviously, Reinhardt's been pretty good. Barkov, I mean, even when he's not putting up points, dude, he's just one of those guys that he's so responsible defensively, man. Just shutting down the best players in the other team. Just kind of exactly what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, Florida's in a really good spot moving forward. Their decor as well is looking really solid, especially like those three guys up there, Ekblad, Montour, and Forsling. I mean, Forsling, dude, I think he's just such an underrated defenseman, man. He plays against some of the best players in the league. He's so good defensively. Man, did you hear the stat that Barkov and Gustav Forsling played over 400 minutes together at 5-on-5? You know how many goals against they let in?
Dude, it was something like 5 or something like that. I don't know.
9.
9, yeah. That's like
That's nuts, dude.
that's
Nuts.
frightening, man.
Forsling had the best plus minus in the NHL this year too. I think it was like plus 45. So I mean, dude, the Panthers are a really fucking deep team, man. Like they bring in Tarasenko, and it's like not all these guys are going to get going in the same rounds, but when you have this depth, it's like if Kachuk's not going one night, fucking Reinhardt comes, or it's Tarasenko, or you know what I mean? It's someone else down the
Yeah.
lineup. They're also going to be getting back Sam Bennett for round two, dude, probably, who's been out since I think game 1 or 2.
Yeah,
So
blocking that shot with his hand.
I'm interested to see. They're obviously playing the Leafs or Boston. They played both of these guys last year in the playoffs on their run to the finals. So I'm going to be honest with you. I think whoever the fuck they play, they're
They're
probably
winning that
dummying them.
series.
5 games, I say. Either
Yeah.
or, honestly. I just think they're that good. It's no
They're
disrespect to either team, but I think if Bob's kicking and Florida's playing the way they are, I don't think that either of those teams can match them.
Yeah, dude, their top two lines are so good. Then you still have that depth on your third and fourth line. Their defensemen are big, know how to play. They can they're pretty good offensively. They're good defensively as well. And then as you mentioned, Bob, dude, if Bob's playing how he did in that first round, they're having no issues in the second round whatsoever. Let's move on to the only sweep though in the first round. New York Rangers sweeping the Washington Capitals. Hey, I called this one, buddy. I called it, man.
You did, dude.
I got to be honest. I think I watched 5 to 10 minutes total.
Yeah,
Of
I'm gonna be
games in
honest.
this
I'm probably gonna
series.
be pretty fast on this series. I didn't really have a whole lot to say about it. I just think Washington, they're completely outmatched. They didn't have Sandin, Nick Jensen for a little bit. Trevor Van Riemsdyk gets hurt. It's really hard to even be competing when you're down 2 or 3 of your top 6 defensemen. You know what I mean? Man, the whole story of the series though, like fucking Ovi, dude. Like what the fuck, dude? Like that is the performance he's gonna come out with in the playoffs, man. Like, are you serious? He did nothing, bro. There
Yeah,
is 3 of the 4 games he had one shot on net, I think. In game 1, he didn't have anything. Like it's like, dude, like you're a Stanley Cup champion. You're the leader of this team. It's like I just think he played terrible.
yeah, he did not
Like
look
Dylan
good.
Strome was probably their best forward in the whole series. And like he probably played consistently better than Ovi most of the year, I would say, to be honest with you. Washington, dude, is just like, dude, I don't think they should have been there. Lindgren probably did as much as he could. Back there, the Rangers are just too much for them. It's good for the Rangers though. Like Panarin got going. He didn't really get going last year at all. They lost in 7. He only had 2 assists. And it's like some of those guys, like they're gonna be well rested and coming out to perform. They're going to be playing the Hurricanes in round number 2. So, I mean, it's going to be a really tough series for them. They're going to have a lot of rest. Shesterkin can look really good as well. I think that's a good sign for the Rangers moving forward as well. But that's pretty much all I got on this series, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't say much more than that. I think New York, they look good. It's going to be a good round two between them and Carolina. We'll talk about that after we finish all the round one wrap ups. I think for Washington though, man, like, dude, like they were so outmatched. Like they shouldn't have been in the playoffs in the first place. The only
They
reason they got
sold
in
at the deadline.
the only reason they got in the playoffs was just because that second wild card spot in the
No,
East was just such a
no one
shit show with
wanted
the
it.
teams. Like nobody wanted it, man. Like
The only
every
team that wanted it, to be honest, was Pittsburgh. Like I can admit they went on a pretty good run at
yeah.
the end there. They were just too far out where it was like, you know what I mean? But yeah, like no team besides that really wanted it, man. It was so weird to see. But yeah, honestly, you got to give kudos to the Rangers though, man. Even though you got a shit opponent, it's like they played well. Like
Yeah, it's still
and
the
and it
playoffs.
You know what I mean? There's nothing they can do about their opponent, right? So I mean, they're in a good spot heading into round two. They've beaten Carolina in the past as well, so I think that's going to be a pretty good round number two matchup.
Yeah, and all I gotta say about Washington just before we move on is it was nice seeing you in the playoffs and having the success that they had for the time that they did, but have fun with your rebuild for the next 5 years
Oh,
because
I know.
they're not
And the
making the playoffs.
last thing
They're
I'll
not
say,
making the
we've said it
playoffs for five
before.
years.
Honestly, man, good for Spencer Carberry, their coach. First
Yeah.
year as a coach, got this team to the playoffs. I mean, he probably bought himself a couple extra years, like
Oh yeah, without a
coaching this
doubt.
team. You know what I mean? There's no way that he had expectations to make the playoffs. In my opinion, they probably said it, but I mean, if they didn't, I don't think like their GM would be like holding it against him. You know what I mean? But man, good
Yeah,
for him. I honestly hope that he is in the final three of Coach of the Year. I do. I really hope he is
it'll be close.
because
I
I think
could
he
see it.
deserves it.
I could see it. It'll be close. Let's move on to the last series, though, in the East. This one's also completed. It was, guess what? Another fucking gentleman's sweep. Way too many. Way too many in the first round. Carolina took it in five over the New York Islanders. All I'm going to say just to start this off, man, is dude, Sorokin goes from Vezina finalist to below 800 goals, save percentage, pardon me. Like,
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like this.
oh,
He played one game though, right? Like it seemed like they just wanted to run with Varley because he ended the season off really well.
yeah.
Patrick was pretty familiar with him too from Colorado when he coached there. I don't think Varley was bad though, dude. To be
No,
completely honest with you, like I don't think it was his
it wasn't
fault
bad.
really. There was a couple goals, obviously, I think he probably could have had, but Carolina's outmatched them pretty well. There were a couple games there, even in like game one, like the Islanders, I thought they outplayed the Hurricanes. They fall a little bit short. The only game they were able to win was game four there in double OT. Freddie Anderson was pretty solid for the Canes as well. Obviously, dude, like one guy I love on Carolina, Seth Jarvis, dude. Holy
So
fuck, bro,
good.
is he a good player? Dude, I honestly think he might make Nick Ash expendable because I think Nick Ash is popping up into that top six role. Obviously, probably depending what's going on with Gensel, Teravainen, their UFAs. But if Gensel decides to come back, I mean, Nick Ash, I know this is like off-season talk, but I just think it's like he more or less is like almost taking a spot in the lineup right now. You know what I mean? In that top six, Jarvis was great in that first round. Aho's just such a consistent player too. Like we talk about Eichel not getting recognized enough, and I probably would take Eichel over Aho, but Aho's a great player, dude. Very
Yeah, he was
responsible
a steal,
defensively,
man.
penalty kill, really good on the penalty kill. And I honestly like the Islanders are a good defensive team, but Carolina goes with this man-on-man style, and it seems to work pretty well, man. Like the guys are buying into the system. Carolina's got a really solid D-core, and they did this without a top four defenseman in Brett Pesce, who was out for the series. I think he's going to be back for round number two. Um, Hurricanes are in a really good spot. I can't lie though, dude. I'm a as like I like the Canes a lot after the Habs. I'm a little bit nervous for them against the Rangers, dude. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the past and the Rangers took that series a couple years ago, but the Rangers are looking pretty good, man. And it's
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be a
Carolina's
good
a deep.
series.
It is going to be a really good series. Like I wonder if this is going to go seven, man. Like it's back and it could be back and forth for the Islanders. They'll obviously like just chat about them a bit before since their season's done, but.
They
I
need
I
top end
just
talent, dude. They
dude,
like
I think personally, dude, like Lamoriello's got to go. Honestly, I don't think he makes enough moves. He's not addressing anything really. He's so set on this core that is so old now, and they don't have any top end goal scorers really, and it really seems to hurt them, dude. Like
the
like
one
every year, what are we talking about? The fucking Islanders can't score.
the one thing I saw was, is there a possibility Lou brings in Hunter this year in some sort of role there?
But what does that do, dude? Like, is that gonna like is he going to let him make decisions on trades? Because it's like
I'd hope so,
he doesn't
man.
sign anyone in the offseason. He barely trades for anyone during the season. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah,
and it's like they're not a bad team, but it's like they're not a great team either. Like, in my opinion, I don't know.
they're
Like,
so mid, dude. Like you got some good pieces there. Like I like Barzell. I do Noah Dobson. Holy shit! Can we talk about the season he
stud,
had? He's
stud.
great. Like Bo Horvat, that was a good trade, good signing. He's a good player. Outside of that,
Yeah.
man, like it's all like sort of role players. Like they don't have any.
One other guy I will put in there that I do think is very underappreciated is Brock Nelson. He's like
I'll
a
agree with
30
that.
plus
I
goal
agree with that.
scorer consistently. I don't think he gets enough credit, but I think it's like besides those couple guys, you're right, dude. Like Anders Lee is not the player he used to be
No.
at all. You know what I mean? Like, and then it's role and depth guys. Like it's Engvall. You're kind of like set on your fourth line with Cizikas and Clutterbuck and Martin, and I just don't know if that's the answer anymore, man.
Yeah, I think they're gonna have to make a lot of changes here over the offseason, dude, if they want to stay competitive and really not just be a first round exit for the next couple of years. Because if they don't change anything, they're just gonna be like wild card teams getting bumped in the first round.
See, what I would consider doing, and I don't know if they would do it, is just seeing how Varlamov played in the playoffs. Like, I think teams could be interested in him. And when you already have
Okay.
Sorokin, it's like okay, Sorokin wasn't good, but look, dude, he's been great his whole career. Besides this,
Yeah,
you know
like
what I
you gotta
mean?
ride with him. You gotta give him time to figure it
I'm
out.
betting on him bouncing back, and it's like, dude, Varlamov, I think could be a starter on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
like, man, I don't think he's like a top goalie in the league or anything, but I'd probably put him in like the top 20, to be completely honest with you. You probably have to break it down, but I mean, he's probably in that range. And it's like, I think some teams that have goalie troubles would take him. Dude, he makes $2.75 million, dude. Like,
Yeah, I could
that's
see
a
a team
good
like
fucking
Detroit.
contract.
Like Detroit,
Yeah, and
like
it's like, and
run
you
a
can get some
tandem with him and
scoring
somebody.
back. You know what I mean? You get some scoring back in a trade. So I mean, I think that would be a pretty good option for the Islanders. I just don't know if they're going to do it. Like it just seems like they're married to this goalie tandem. We talk about like possibility probably Allmark's going to be on the move this summer because of how good Swayman is. It's like I would just bet on Sorokin bouncing back, and I would really consider moving Varlamov, dude.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on what Patty Waugh wants, though, because Patty Waugh has no trust in Sorokin right now. So
Yeah.
I don't know how happy he would be like letting Varlamov go on and just riding Sorokin going in the next season, or how confident he would be like doing that as a coach. But at the end of the day, it's most likely going to be Lou's. So Lou's probably going to say, fuck off. I don't care what you think.
Yeah. Well, his
What's
contract's done though, dude. That's why I was saying about him like maybe not coming back next year. It's like, are they gonna re-up him or not? Like,
well, if they don't
I
re
can't
up
imagine
him?
their ownership's that happy with
Yeah.
like two straight first round exit, missed the playoffs the year before after going to the conference finals twice in a row, right? So
And
it's kind of like
he's
Tampa, dude. They're taking steps back recently.
he's getting up there in age too. It's like, do you want this old guy like controlling the future of your team when he might not even be there in
Dude, he's
5 years?
already
Or
like
are you going to be
semi-retired, dude. He like doesn't even
yeah.
do anything half the time, man.
Let's move on and talk about the only round two matchup that is confirmed as of right now. It's the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Rangers. It all kicks off on Sunday. It's gonna be a good game one. Let's just start off though. What's your prediction for this series?
Bro, this is fucking tough, man. And it shouldn't be tough because I in my bracket I had these two teams meeting. I don't know, man. I don't have the greatest vibe with Carolina against the Rangers. I think it's going to be a heck of a series, though. Both of these teams are matched pretty well. And even like you look at their defense, man, like how stacked Carolina is. Like the Rangers got a really good decor as well,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Like
they do.
you either got Trouba or Braden Schneider playing on the third pair. Like it's pretty deep. You look at goaltending, it's like Shesterkin's the better goalie, but bro, Anderson's been lights out this year, dude.
Dude,
Like,
Anderson played great in the play in round one. He had a
oh,
nine
did you
twelve.
see some of those saves he was making, dude?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's been on his game for sure. And up front, man, it's like Carolina's deep. The Rangers are pretty deep too. I think maybe Carolina's a little bit deeper, but it's like I think that the Rangers got the best player in the series in Panarin. You know what I mean? Up front.
Yeah.
As a Carolina fan, I hate to say this, but I think Rangers in seven.
Hey buddy, I'm going the opposite way here. I'm going Carolina in seven. The reason I got to give it to Carolina is as you mentioned, they probably are a deeper team. I sort of like the style of hockey they play a little bit more than New York. I think they're going to be able to they're going to be able to lock down New York in the defensive zone a little bit more than the Rangers will be able to do to Carolina. And the other thing, I think they got the coaching edge here, man. Like I really like Rob Brind'Amour as a coach. He hasn't signed an extension yet, so like his future with the team isn't really known at the moment. I like if he doesn't like his future with the team going forward could all be based off what happens here in round 2. Like if they don't win, who knows if
That's
Carolina
fair.
decides to move on from him. So I think he's going to be really having a lot to do with the success that he wants Carolina to have in the second round here. It's going to be a close series, man, but I just got Carolina. Something about this team is different than other years, dude. Like other years at trade deadline, they don't go out and get that big name. They go out and they get Jake Gensel this year. He's looked phenomenal for him so far. They also go out and get Kuznetsov, dude. Kuznetsov in round 1, like he looked pretty decent, man. He was having some production. Like I just think that depth and I just think the depth, the style of hockey that they play, and just the coach is going to be a factor in why they take it in 7 games.
Man, I could definitely see it. I think it's going to be close for sure. Laviolette is a good coach though too, dude, right? Like he's got a cup with the Hurricanes back in 06, right? Who coached Brind'Amour, which is nuts that these guys are playing each other or coaching against each other, excuse me. But the Rangers, man, I don't know. Like it's just like I did watch a bit against Washington and they look pretty good, man. And they obviously ended the season really well with the President's Trophy. And I think like goaltending is gonna be a huge part, right? Like are these guys both going to continue what they've been doing? Does one of them falter? Like, do both of them? You know what I mean? Do we see other
Yeah.
guys in this series? Like, I don't really know, but this is going to be a close round 2 matchup. And honestly, like, it's going to be probably as good of a matchup as like whoever Colorado is going to play, I think. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? In the West.
looking at the round 2 matchups, the best round 2 matchups are going to be this New York, Carolina, and then Colorado and whoever they play. Like Florida, they play Boston, Toronto. Florida should win that series in like 5-6 games. And then Edmonton, whoever they play, whether it's Nashville or Vancouver, again, I think they win that series in probably 6 games, to be honest. But
Yeah.
these like honestly, like the Carolina, New York, and the Colorado, and then whether it's Dallas or Vegas, like those two round 2 matchups, like they could be conference finals, and we'd be sitting here pretty happy about that and the matchups we're getting there.
No, I completely agree. Honestly, like we said, it was, I guess, a little bit disappointing of a round 1 overall, just with like the lack of series that have kind of gone the distance here and only getting one series that's 2-2. But happy we got at least one game 7. I do believe that one of these 2 Western Conference matchups, one of them is going to go to 7.
Dallas, Vegas.
So I think we're going to see a second game 7 on Sunday. So hopefully it ends up really good, man. So little disappointing of a first round, but it could still end pretty strong. And we're already set up for like 2 really good series in the second round. So it's not like this playoffs can't get better. You know what I mean? It's obviously going to be really entertaining. As much as I think Dallas has got a good chance to win, I think there's a lot of teams that could potentially take it this year, dude. So I mean, once we get to the final 8, it's going to be really interesting.
It's definitely a good year for playoffs. There's still a lot to come. We'll probably be back sometime around middle to end of next week, because at that point all the round 1 matchups are going to be done and most of the round 2 matchups are going to be started. So we'll be breaking that down. It's definitely a lot to be looking forward to as the playoffs continue and more news comes out on injuries, signings for coaches and stuff like that. But for everybody listening, thanks for tuning in.